Well, here is a new project. As you can probably tell from that, it's a 12 string. It came without a bridge or without a saddle, without strings, and it's supposed to be about a 1970s something, made in the US of A, and it's a guild. There you can see the model number G20NT, and it has some issues. There's a little bit of hairline cracking on the finish, which is kind of typical, but there are a couple of cracks. There's one there just by the pickguard and one up at the top of the pickguard as well. So we'll have to address that. But here's the issue. The headstock has been broken and somebody has fixed it with some very coarse and rough methods. You can see some of the veneer on the top has been broken off. They put screws into it, and if you look at the back here, you can see where the brake is, and there's also screws holding it together at the back. If it was just screws, that would be easy to fix, but I think it's been glued as well, and so this is going to take some more major surgery, I believe. There's also a couple of cracks in the finish. It appears on the neck, but I know this has a dual truss rod system in it, so a really, really fine guitar. These are, this is interesting here too. The nut, I just noticed this, is for a 6-string, and so it appears that somebody probably was running this as a 6-string guitar at one point. Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be an adventure. Well, I've got all the screws out. I've got this somewhat down to level, although I'm going to have to take a clean up a little bit more of this out of here. Got this squared off so I can put a new piece in here. Not sure what I'll put in there. As you can see, there's 2 truss rods in here. And speaking to the point that this is a much better built guitar than you would normally find for most 12 strings. It's definitely, they've gone the extra mile. So that's good. I've tightened them up a bit because they were fairly loose. So we've got just a slight back bow in here right now, which I think will be okay by the time we put pressure on this. But I've got some decisions to make. I got to plug these holes where the screws were. I think I'll just do that with dowels. And then on the back here, I'd like to put some reinforcement in here, but the challenge is with 2 truss rods, and as deep as they are, there's not very much room I've got before I'm going to router into the truss rod. I could put it in the center. That would be a little bit safer, because that would come down into here instead of aligning with these truss rods. We may do that, but right now I got to think about this. The headstock seems to be solid. I don't see any movement in it at all. So I think whoever glued it used the right glue and probably did a fairly good job. So I've done a check on the fret leveling here, and there's several frets that are high, and I've marked them all along here. So we're gonna do the entire fretboard. It's all over the place. That needs to be done. It's been done before, and they didn't crown the frets really well afterwards. They're pretty flat, so we're gonna have to do quite a bit of work on that as well. But we'll knock them down to level first, so we don't have to do it twice. I've got this pretty much cleaned up. This edge needs to be trued up. I'll work on that. I found some material that I had here that I think will work pretty good. Black is not always black, so there's going to be a slight difference, but I think that's the best I'm going to be able to come up with. So I'll be cutting that out here shortly, and then start the process of fitting it so that I can lay that in. But before that happens, I've got to get some dowels put in here and try and plug all these screw holes that they'd made before. So I'm going to get that done, and then we'll let that set up and I can clean it up. I've decided, I believe that I'm going to do a rotor, a slot in the back here, and inlay some material to try and reinforce this brake. That's still a little up in the air yet, but we'll work on that. So first things first, let's get these in. So, as I pointed out before, we've got a couple of fairly serious cracks running through the top. Serious only in the respect that they're going to be kind of hard to disguise. I've been putting some humidity in it, trying to bring it together. It hasn't moved all that much. So, and there's braces under all of this fairly close by. So I don't think we're going to get much movement to bring those back together. So here I'm just going to start with the front one first. I'm going to use Tight Bond 3 just because it's a little stronger, and this should never have to come apart again, and I don't want it to come apart again, so that is why I'm using this. We're going to get it worked in there as good as we can. And a little from underneath as well, can't hurt. Just clean that off. Got a little caul that I'm going to put in place here. But, well, it's sticking to the top, so I'm going to put a little wax on it just to keep that from happening. Don't have much room here. Okay, we're just going to trim off the excess of these these dowels that we put in here. But then we're going to fill those with some epoxy putty. There's some deep marks in there, and so I filled them because I don't think I want to sand them down to the depth they are. They're just fine, they're not going to hurt anything, so I'm just going to stain this bridge again. It's stained anyway, so. Okay, we're gonna take these clamps off now and just take a look at what we've got, how that crack came together. And that's not terrible. Work we need to do on that. Expected that much. So I've leveled out the epoxy. I put some CA glue over top to kind of give it a preliminary finish, and just looking for low spots and trying to work it down to smooth finish, and it's getting close. Get a low spot in here. It's pretty good otherwise. A little bit in here as well. Let's see. So this is back to the guild here, and I'm going to install a 3-sensor pickup. This is an Amumu, and I've used these before and I quite like them. They seem to be really good quality. And a little bonus, you get the tin can when you're done. It's a good thing to put parts in. Anyway, so I'm going to drill a hole in this end to accommodate the jack, and then we'll install these 3 sensors like this underneath. And we've got all the tools here to do it with. The nice thing about Amumu, they send you the CA glue and the installation kit, everything you need to make it all work. So we'll get started with drilling this hole. Get it taped, and I got a pilot drilled already. So now we're going to finish this off. So I've got this headstock prepared as well as I think I can, and I've also made this half overlay to fit. Done that out in the shop, and I got it ground down to a place where it fits the hole a little bit on the proud side, so I'll be able to file and polish that out. I've taken the clamps off this headstock patch that I've put on. I've got this routed out to allow access to the truss rod adjustments. I still find this interesting that it's got double truss rods in it, which is a really cool feature. Obviously, it adds a lot of flexibility or rigidity in this case to the fretboard. So I've glued this. I've put in some CA glue, some black carbon CA glue, to try and deal with the joint where the two materials came together. So now I'm just gonna try and pare this down to close to level, and then start sanding and polishing on that joint, and as well as the rest of the pickguard, and try and blend this together as much as possible. So this is just nothing more than time and effort. So let's get at it. I'm just doing this with a razor blade with some tape on it to give a little bit of clearance off the surface. I'm scuffing this up a bit, as you can see, but that'll all come out when we polish it. So well, I've got I just need to do some final polishing on the headstock there. Done some touch up back here on the neck. It's nice and smooth now. Need a coat of gloss over that. Pretty good match. Not perfect, but it'll be more than good. So now we need to do a little bit of fret dressing here. Steel wool things are doing a good job of just putting that final polish to the frets and cleaning up the fretboard, taking out any sanding marks I may have left. It looks good. Treat that fretboard with some boiled linseed oil. Touch up on that crack right there. Can hardly see it now. So I thought 12 strings are so hard to cut the nuts on because there's 12 slots to cut and they should be perfect. And so I thought I'm just going to buy a nut, and it's about at least 3/16 of an inch too long. This is a really narrow fretboard for a 12 string. And I'm just going to measure it just to see what we've got. Should have done this before, I suppose. (153/64). Standard guitar is 1 11/16. So this is only marginally wider, still not even a 1 3/4 inch. So okay, we're going to build one from scratch. I've got a piece of bone here, bison bone, and so go to the shop and hone that down to the right size. Well, I got the nut cut down out the shop and rounded it out, and I marked it off kind of using the nut that I purchased as a guide, because I don't really have a different one, and I think that's going to work fine. I'm just kind of squeezing the spacing a little bit. So now I just need to cut out these, get started on these slots. I've got a set of nut files here that I like to use because they're not the greatest, but they're a bit wedge shaped, and that takes a lot of the pressure off. Trying to cut these 12 strings absolutely straight, they want to snap off. There's so little meat left. So these kind of provide a bit of a wedge, a little bit of a V groove, and that seems to be make it a little. Well, I polished this headstock out, and yes, you can still see the line where the joint is, and I didn't expect that we would get rid of that completely, but it's pretty good. Polished it all up, and it's looks like a pretty good match now. So I think I'm happy with that. I'm just start putting some tuners back in here. Okay, we've started stringing this up, and down to the last couple of strings here. We'll won't be able to play it for a bit, but we will be able to start the setup adjustments. See how this goes. Put some new ebony pins on this that I ordered in for it. Okay, well, setup doesn't look terrible, but we'll have to tweak it some here, I'm sure. Let's just check it a little bit. Well, 80 on this side, which is pretty nice. Looks like about 60 to 70 on that side. Sounds really nice, but I've got a lot of work to do on the nut. I'm going to file it down and bring them down to proper height. They're obviously high. It's a brand new nut that I put on this, and we've left it intentionally high so we can bring it down to the right height. So that's going to take a little bit of work and some time, and I probably won't film all that because it's just a matter of loosening the strings, keep filing them down, tighten them up, and putting them back. It's just a long process, especially on a 12 string. But anyway, I'll work on that. The action looks pretty nice. Let's just